Hello, friend. Anna Sabramowitz here, and I help people plan, write, and launch engaging scenarios. Now, the reason I wanted to share this video with you, and you're looking at something very fun right now that I'm going to show you in a second, is that recently I was exposed to this interactive video experiment, and I thought this will be very cool to share with my list. When I did share it with my list, a lot of people enjoyed it. They found it suspenseful and very engaging. But then I read up on the development of, why it actually happened, who created this experiment. It came from Typeform, which is one of my favorite form companies, and I use them. But when I realized that the creation of this experiment, this video, was a part of something that was a way to feature how the software could be used to create an engaging experience. And so I thought that that's kind of interesting because I think a lot of us in the software world of instructional design, we get enamored with technology and try and find ways to make it fit for our purpose.
Sorry.
And
Hey, sorry.
it's fine for
I'm
these
your
developers to do
neighbor
that
across
because
the
they
hall
wanted
here.
to create
And,
an experience
I've
where
left
you
my
could
keys
just
in the
do
house,
some
but
exploring.
I'm pretty sure the back door's
we don't have that
open. Would you
luxury.
mind
We're
if
actually
I
trying to
kinda
get
went
people
through and hopped over
to
your
change their
balcony?
behavior or
Sure.
see things in a different perspective.
Sorry, I just moved in across the hall
So
here.
we can't be random about it
give me a
and being
sec,
very
Yeah.
specific about where we're leading or taking the people that we're taking. And so I'll show you what this is first, and then I'll give you some tips on how you can avoid some of these pitfalls and create your own engaging scenarios. So I'll play this right now. All right, so at this point, basically what we are presented with is an alternate choice question where both options look extremely compelling to me. And depending on which one I choose, this will take me to a different video than this one. And so I get to choose how this story progresses. And the video in the background will just keep looping until I make a decision. Awesome, right? So that was great. I thought it was fantastic. There's a lot of really compelling, good pace. It's interesting. You don't know who you're rooting for, and that's all great. But as far as actually creating a learning experience, you can't be. If you were designing this, you'd have to be able to basically decide where people are supposed to go, right? So when I read about this, and it was such a fun read because their blog is just the way they wrote it is very fantastic about how they brainstormed for 36 hours to create this interactive experience. And one of the things that struck me was when I saw this video where they were brainstorming, I came across this particular image. And this is what I discussed in a previous video, just very quickly, is that when I see people starting out with scenarios, they basically, especially branching scenarios, they go like this. This is how they start. They start with something in the very beginning, and then they basically come up with options for each of those decision points. Now, the problem with this is that you quickly lose the point as you get into third and fourth question. Everything keeps on multiplying and splitting, and what happens is you end up losing and diluting your actual message. You can easily get lost in these branches and also come up with options that are not necessary. They don't really teach anybody anything. So what's really cool here is that they worked on stickies, which is a great place to do your brainstorming, and that's how I do a lot of my planning, You don't want to do it in the software. Like these guys are software developers and they still use stickies to actually do all of their planning, especially for the video recording, because you want to organize that fairly well, right? And so that's great. I love this approach. I love what they created, but we want to stay away from things like this. So basically what I suggested is that first you want to find out where your learner is right now. And then after you do some learning, is you figure out where they want to be. Where do you want to take them? Where do they need to be at the end of your scenario? Is it that they need to perceive something differently? Do they need to have an aha moment? Do they need to understand that they have some gaps? So you figure out what that is. Where is this end goal? What do they need to believe to be able to take action at this point? And then what happens is you can now add these decisions along the way, these situations, these little scenarios basically, along the way, and each one can be its own decision point. Now, I think that a lot of people, when I presented this actually in a different video yesterday, was that they went through this and they thought that there would only be one branch and that this needs to be linear and everything leads to the next point. And it actually doesn't. So that's why I thought I'd show you a branch track, because it's a better representation. So this is a branching software I love. And they are excellent for teaching people how to have great conversations one-on-one with anyways, so that's what the software does. So at the very beginning, I've decided where somebody's starting off as far as what their mindset is, let's say, and where I want them to end up. So this is maybe this green part here. And potentially here I have something where it's like an exit path, where if they really mess up, they're just, they're never going to get here because they've made these really, let's say, poor choices. But I've mapped my major path, and then everything else, even though it can deviate a little bit from this, I'm always justifying all these other extra options that I have come up with against the end goal. Is it going to help me or help my learner get where they need to go? Or is it going to teach them a valuable lesson? So what happens is, regardless of what I add in the middle, because I've already decided the outcomes that I want them to get, the mindset shifts, the aha moments I want them to have, the perspective, all those things have been decided ahead of time. So whatever I'm filling in the middle after that major path, it's all bonus, but also it all keeps me focused because I know where the end is. If I just started here and then just started adding branches, we'd quickly get lost. And also, you'd quickly end up adding things that were not necessarily a good lesson or necessary in the first place. So then you get your top performer or your expert or whoever, even your end user as well, to go through this in the preliminary stages to make sure that your options and the language that you're using resonates with them and they find it challenging enough to actually want to go on because you've created this compelling scenario for them. So I hope you find that helpful. And if you have any questions, let me know. If you want to work with me, or actually there's a great case study I have on my site. It's called AnnaSabramowitz.com, and it's got a case study on there on more about scenarios, because I think that really what we're trying to do here is capture people's insights and specific thinking. Now, I think a lot of times we think about scenarios as teaching people how to use, this widget versus this widget, but I don't think that's where they add the most value. I think scenarios can be the mechanism by which we capture those really awesome perspectives that companies have in-house that they lose as people leave and retire. So this is a way for you to capture those perspectives, those situations, and then share them with the new workforce. So before people leave, you want to tap into that, find out what they're doing, find out how they thought about things, then create a scenario like this, share it with your new employees, and have them innovate on that experience that already exists within your company. And this is not something you'd be able to buy in some sort of a repository, because a lot of those experiences are custom to your market, custom to your people. And that's where I think scenarios can really add a lot of value and capture that bleeding talent, basically. All right, so if you have any questions, anything I talked about you want more details on, or anything else, please let me know in the comments. And talk to you later, my friend. Take care. Bye.